Hello and welcome everyone to Make It Your Lettering Year featuring Klara, Monetizing Your Creativity with Digital Products. My name is Heather Leavitt Martinez, and I'm really excited to have her as a guest today and all of you here because we've got some exciting things to share. And I am super rejuvenated from a really challenging summer and to have you in this room. I want to tell you a few things about Make It Your Lettering Year. We meet monthly live, and some of the sessions are just live sessions with guest speakers. We've got portfolio sessions, which this is a combination of portfolio in terms of how do you present your work and also guest session. We also have a community session where we share what we're working on, and we're going to get a little bit more structured in 2025 so that I can serve all of you better. It's not going to be scary structure, it's going to be really supportive structure. So let's talk about what are some of the things that we've been doing in Make It Your Lettering Year in the past month. Just this past month, we've had a lot of great guests. We worked on edagami. So week 44 prompt was where we really focus on nature. I showed some examples of how I use trees in my edagami. We also celebrated the one word. There's a lot of power in one word. We talked about that for sure. And then lettering projects. So in the second year of Make It Your Lettering Year, we talked a lot about lettering projects and how we can use a lot of these prompts to create projects. And so we're continuing to do that. This year, our focus was on surface. And then this is my absolute favorite prompt, which is idea mashup, where I take all of the weeks that we've had a prompt, all of the prompts, 52 prompts, and I put them in a wheel. And in that session, when you go into Make It Your Lettering Year, you can click on a link, it'll take you to the wheel, and you spin the wheel, and you can spin it once and be like, okay, I'll work on that prompt. Or you can spin it twice and do a mashup. And I love a good mashup. So this one's a super fun prompt. A couple of announcements coming up. I've got a lot of events coming up this Thursday for the Tech Host Academy Sandbox session. If you're not familiar with sandbox sessions, this is where tech hosts get together and hang out and try to break things, try things. If they've never been in Zoom or if they're not familiar with the new Zoom, let's get into breakout rooms and try things. That's this Thursday. I'm going to be focusing on AI, the new timer, which is totally stinky. I don't like it at all. So I'm going to talk about how to make better timers. And then also wanted to let you know, if you haven't already heard about it, I'm offering Tech Host Academy Greatest Hits. And this is wonderful for calligraphers and calligraphy guilds who want just the basics to get started. This is an abbreviated version of Tech Host Academy. And on Thursday, if there are tech hosts from calligraphy guilds, we're going to be talking about some specific needs that you can really help your calligraphy guilds. Now, I'm going to put a bunch of links in the chat after I get done with these announcements, so you'll have them. December 5th, the Sweethearts of Lettering, Carol Dubosh, Mike Gold, and Sharon Zoigan are getting together to share some projects about and around why they do what they do. These are my mentors, love to share what they're doing with you, which also I'll share some more resources for them. We have 2 sessions coming up. I thought it might be fitting right before the holidays and right at the beginning of the new year to do some resilience building. Now, this is specifically around artists, but everyone is welcome to come because we all need to build resilience. And I'll make another announcement at the end of the session about what's coming in 2025. We're going to be offering co-working sessions. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you want to join Mike Gold, we have, I think it's 3 Saturdays in a row, The Art of Breaking the Rules with Mike Gold. It's going to be an ongoing workshop. If you love Mike Gold, this is a chance to work with him this year. And then, of course, I chose to share this about Carol. Many of you have taken lots of classes from Carol, or you've got access to a lot of her knowledge through Make It Your Lettering Year. But Carol and I did a session last year called Many Hands, where she shared several of her inspiring projects. And those you can watch for free anytime on YouTube. And I'm especially highlighting this because she has so many products on there, online classes. I shared some of the downloadable products, and this might give you some ideas after today of what kind of products and projects you can do as a calligrapher. And then, if you haven't heard already, I've created a new private learning portal featuring all of Sharon Soigan's classes. We're still in the midst of putting them over into its own portal, but if you're a part of Deep Harvest, that's over there. And I'm going to go ahead and pop all of those links in the chat. You don't have to click them now. This will also be in the follow-up email to everyone so that you've got it. But now I really want to take a moment to welcome our guest, Klara Koo. I have to say that Klara is one of the brilliant minds behind conquerthedigitalempire.com. Klara, do you mind telling us your husband's name? Is it John? Yeah, John. So I have been admiring Klara for a few years now and have enjoyed working with her this past year as part of her Digital Empire membership. She has provided me with just in time learning to help me see the value of my work, structure my content into digital products, and market it in ways that align with my values. Now, driven and detail oriented, principal product designer with a passion for user experience, teaching, and leadership, Klara is known for high design craft, empathy, active listening, and adaptability. This is why I love working with her. Klara excels in mentoring and coaching designers to achieve growth and high quality design outcomes. She fosters positive learning environments and delivers engaging and impactful instruction. So I'm so happy to have Klara as our guest today, and I'm pretty sure you will be too. So I'm going to again ask if you have any of your questions ready. Please feel free to put them in the chat and I can moderate, but we are definitely going to allow Klara to get through her, we'll let her get through her presentation today because she loves to answer questions, much like me. And so we don't want to distract her too much. So if you have that question, put it in the chat and I'll make sure that they get, we moderate at the end. If you're dialing in from a mobile device or if chat isn't possible, we just ask for you to wait to ask your questions at the end. So let's give Klara a warm welcome with some applause. Some great. Let me get Klara up here.
Hello, everyone. I am dialing in from South Florida. And I just want to say upfront, like, thank you so much, Heather, for inviting me into your world and your space. And it's been a really great getting to know you and just the world that you guys all live in with like the different art, the visual practitioner, the design world that you guys are in, because that's been my passion since I was in high school, always in the design world. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, should I just go ahead and turn it over to you? Are you ready?
yes, I am ready. And
Super.
thank you all again. And I'm going to be sharing my screen. I've put together a small training presentation, but I would like to say, as Heather mentioned, I do love answering questions. And at the end of the day, I would love this to be very much a conversation. Hopefully get to know you all in a little bit in this space that we have together. And as things pop up as I go through this training, as Heather mentioned, please feel free to, even if it's not a question, just an aha moment. I love seeing that type of aha moment in real time in the chat. And it's a great way to know like what's resonating with you as I go through the slide deck. Hi, so welcome again to my presentation on monetizing your creativity monetizing your creativity with digital products. And today I really want to help you all explore an opportunity that you might have been dabbling with, or maybe you may not have quite considered before, and that is creating and selling digital products based on your art. So whether you are a visual practitioner, a calligrapher, an illustrator, or any type of visual artist, you have the ability to absolutely turn that into something that people can purchase and download online. And the reason I'm really passionate about speaking on this topic is it's really a great way where you can generate a new revenue stream of income that complements the work that you're already doing. And you could consider it as, side hustle or side income. It doesn't have to completely replace whatever you're doing now, but it's a great complement to it. And that's why I love speaking about this topic. Now, when it comes to this idea of monetizing your creativity, I want you to think beyond earning income from the doing of your craft. So, in my agency, Conquer the Digital Empire, I'm constantly working with busy service providers who are looking for ways to earn money outside of direct one-on-one client work. And the reason that they're looking for that is they've tended to reach a ceiling where they can't really scale past a certain point because they're limited by how many hours there are in a day to work, and as well as limited by the number of people they can realistically serve based on their bandwidth. So I call that the limits or the trap of the one-on-one time trade. And you might be facing this too if there's only so many workshops or trainings or clients that you can handle yourself, especially if you are a solopreneur working by yourself. So instead, let's flip how we see ourselves and put on the hat of being what I call a knowledge entrepreneur. Now, what I define as a knowledge entrepreneur is someone who is able to turn their skills and expertise into digital products that can then scale your revenue in a smarter or more sustainable way. So throughout this presentation, think not just as a visual practitioner or whatever you identify as, but how can you embody this identity of being a knowledge entrepreneur? Now, I want to first start off by really emphasizing why digital products? Why is this such a good time now to really embrace adding digital products to your business if you haven't already? Well, the first benefit that I want to talk about is its passive income potential. This idea that you can create a digital product once and then sell it over and over rather than always starting from scratch. The next benefit, of course, is there's low overhead. With digital products, there isn't cost to package or ship anything or to keep a large inventory the way you would think of for physical products. Next benefit is expanding your reach. With digital products, you're not limited just by selling or promoting to a local community. You can actually be attracting buyers from anywhere in the world across different time zones, countries, continents. Someone with an internet connection can find and purchase your digital product online. The other way you can expand your reach too is by accessing built-in audiences that come with really popular digital marketplaces. So a really common marketplace people are familiar with is Etsy. Etsy has a built-in audience of people who already know that they can go to that website, search for something with a specific theme or aesthetic, and then search results will pop up for an artist who might be fitting what that buyer is looking for. That's an example of accessing a built-in audience that you might not have had access to otherwise. There's other marketplaces that I'll mention. In addition to Etsy, there's Gumroad. That's another one. Another marketplace you all can look into, Envato, Envato, Envato Marketplace. Those are places where they make it as easy as possible for you to set up a profile and account and start putting your work out there for your digital products. And then, of course, digital products are very scalable. There is no limit to how many you can sell. So going back to the idea that you can sell something over and over and an unlimited amount of it. And two more things I want to also mention with digital products. This idea of having flexibility and a value add built in. Because digital products are great when they can complement physical or in-person services that you're already providing. So think of if you are, let's say, doing a workshop and you create this beautiful chart, right? A value add might be, oh, I will give you digital copies of this paper of this design that I just made. And you can get it either perhaps you include it as a bonus, or maybe it's like an additional upsell, but you already made it. But by turning it into like a digital format, it's a value add that you can put on top of your service. And you can decide how you might want to price that accordingly or not. But that's a value add, and that's a way you can think of it in the knowledge entrepreneur hat that I asked you to put on earlier in the presentation. And related to that is this idea of repurposing your existing work. How can you turn any past projects or perhaps a very popular piece in your portfolio into something like a downloadable file, into a template, or into a tutorial, and then use it as a reselling opportunity? Because it's always going back to working smarter, not harder. And I'm a very big proponent of what can you use that's existing rather than having to think of a completely new thing that you have to do from scratch. When we get to a brainstorming exercise later on, it's really focused on looking at what you've already done, because chances are you all have a backlog of trainings, of work, of finished pieces that you can absolutely tap into rather than making something completely new. The first big section I want to talk about to how we can make this real, right, is how are you choosing the ideal digital product for your craft? And now, when choosing which digital product can align best with the type of work that you're doing, there are three key factors that I want you all to consider. So the first factor is, can you identify something in your work that you can easily digitize? For those of you where your work starts on paper, whether it's a flip chart, a canvas, a normal piece of paper, a sketchbook, if it's starting on paper, the first major step really is you need to convert this physical piece into a digital file so that you can then sell it online. And the way that you're going to be doing that is you're either going to be scanning or photographing your work. Now, a high quality scanner, perhaps you have something at home that is one of those 3-in-1 where it prints, scans, one of those like an Epson or something. A high quality scanner is what would work best for getting you those really crisp, detailed images, because you want whatever that you made on that paper to translate all that rich detail, the colors, the different marks, to translate as much as possible into the actual digital image. So that's why a scanner would work best. But we know that a lot of the more modern smartphones are also equipped with very powerful cameras. So if you don't have a scanner, leverage, if you have a modern enough smartphone with a good camera, that can also work too. I actually would recommend an app called Adobe Scan. Um, it's a mobile app that's available, and you can use it to take photos of your work and upload it, and you can, clean up any imperfections that you might notice in the photo in order to get it ready to be a clean digital file. Now, when you scan or photograph your artwork, I do have a couple tips. So normally, depending on the lighting conditions that you photograph your work in, there might need to be some edits done afterwards in terms of increasing the contrast or the brightness, maybe the colors, making sure that everything is really sharp and just looks incredibly visually attractive when you're selling this digital file online. There's another tool I recommend called GIMP Image Editor. It is a free tool, and you can take whatever photo or image that you've taken on your phone or scan, and you can pass it through. It's very similar in terms of features to Photoshop, but it is something free that you can try online so that you don't have to, subscribe to using Adobe Photoshop. My other tip too is when you're photographing your artwork, try to, as much as possible, have very even lighting to avoid any shadows or glare on the paper. And try to keep it as flat as possible. I have an example here. I picked this on purpose. You can obviously see there's a crease down the middle because this was folded in half at some point. That's where something like the GIMP image editor could actually help take out that crease. AI design tools have come very far, and something in terms of like taking out creases or smudges or dirt are generally things that are very easy to remove in these image editing tools. Now, if you have actually created any sort of artwork digitally, then actually there is no need for you to scan or photograph it. Quick raise of hands. Are those of you, are you regularly, using like a tablet or an iPad to draw any of your art? Hand raise. I see, I see a couple, Noelle, Sarah, Heather. Yeah. So if you're someone who actually has done this already, where you're already drawing something digitally, then that's great. You've saved yourself that step, and it's more of a matter of saving it as either a high quality JPEG or PNG format. And I'll talk more about formats in a bit. But saving it as a JPEG or PNG format to get it ready to be sold online. Now, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, that might be something, in the background you could look into in terms of looking into different drawing tools that you could be doing on the tablet instead of it always necessarily starting on paper. It's definitely an adjustment. I was a painter in college, and it was a transition to go completely digital because I miss that tangible quality, the dirtiness that you get when you're painting or drawing. So it is a shift, but sort of once you get into it, and there's very many apps out there, I think you might be pleasantly surprised at how you can adapt to drawing digitally, in addition to still continuing, being on paper and canvas. And I wanted to also show some examples along the way of how you can take something that you're already doing and translate it online. So for one of my clients, she's not a visual practitioner, but she's a quilter. And I was working with her, and she designs quilt patterns. And she had actually made a lot of physical booklets that she sold in her brick and mortar shop. And she wanted to start selling them online because a lot of people were now visiting her website because she'd grown her following over the years. And so it was really just a matter of taking stuff that she'd already typed out, photos that she'd already taken of her process to make this pattern, and putting it together into a PDF, into this quilt pattern booklet. And what we can do now is I took this PDF. She has a website she happens to be running on Squarespace. But Squarespace has an e-commerce feature where you can upload a PDF and sell that as a digital download file. So here we have one of her patterns being sold online. She priced it for $9.95. And she regularly, I think she's made now maybe like 2,500 off of this one particular pattern ever since we got it up there. So it's just an example again of she had something already sitting on a computer, photos that she took on her phone, combined it into a PDF and packaged it for her audience, and then it was able to sell it online. So that is one example. Now, the second factor I want you to consider is looking for hidden gold. So hidden gold is, again, how can you look at content that you've already made and see how can you repackage that into a digital product? Because often we forget that we've got existing videos, tutorials, maybe demonstrations that we've done, even notes that we've taken on the side. We've combined all our notes from everything we've ever learned on a particular topic into one document. There is value in that already, and you've already made it. So you've done a lot of the legwork in terms of the creation. Previously recorded videos is one of my most popular areas for you to look at. So in this first bullet, what are any existing videos that you could take that you could then repackage as a paid tutorial? This can be done with live streams or Zoom workshops where you can edit or extract parts of it and sell it as its own tutorial or as its own class. I do many of these in my membership where I've done trainings within the membership for the members, but I could always take that individual training and sell it as its own thing on my website. And I could use that as an introduction to my teaching to eventually then lead people into the membership. So it's not just about taking your existing videos and putting it out there. It's also thinking through what could that video lead to bring people back to working with you more, whether it is to see more of your content or whether it is to actually hire you for something directly. There's always a path that your digital products can lead people down to work more closely with you. Does that make sense as far as like how you can start connecting these products together? Now, the other thing is, let's say, again, you have a bunch of videos, you could think of bundling them into a course. So let's say you have multiple short videos or just videos that are very related in theme or topic to each other. You could bundle those into a more comprehensive course or an educational series. A really great one might be to think of it in terms of, is there a beginner's guide series that you all can put together based on videos you've already made? Or perhaps it's a master class on a specific technique. So if you have a very, special technique to get a specific effect done with your artwork, maybe that's just what that particular course is about. Mini courses can be as small as just one lesson. Big courses, you could have, many modules, like maybe 5 or 6 modules that might have 5 or 6 lessons each. I would say in the beginning, when you are thinking of any sort of course, A mini course is a great one to start with just because it's just a smaller bit of work for you to wrap your head around. But again, if you've got a lot of videos already that are related in theme and that you can put in a sequence that makes sense for someone starting from square one, then that is a great place to start as well in terms of looking for your hidden gold. And one other thing I want you to think about too is there a way you can use behind the scenes footage? A lot of times, I remember like when I was back when I was painting, I took a lot of in progress videos and photos, like behind the scenes stuff, just from my own memory, my own posterity, right? But if you actually have a backlog of that kind of process related behind the scenes footage, you could actually position it as exclusive content that gives added value to your audience. Um, has anyone ever paid extra because you wanted to see the behind the scenes of how something worked or how something was done? Kind of like a VIP pass to see, behind the curtain. Because I've certainly done that for other things that I've purchased. This is an opportunity for you. You could do the same thing. So let's say one of your most popular pieces um, was a painting. I'll just pick a painting. And for, your biggest fans, they might absolutely be interested at having seen like the story behind the painting, why you created it, what your workspace was like, the journal entries where you were brainstorming how to create this piece. That can all be packaged as exclusive content as a digital product to go with your actual finished piece of work. Now, I did mention in this section quite a few videos, and I know video editing can be something that can feel very overwhelming for someone who's not a video editor. So the tool that I like to recommend when it comes to editing videos is something called Descript. Actually, Heather's also familiar with it now, but what is very powerful with Descript is you can edit videos in the same way that you could edit a text document. They call it text-based video editing. And just as a quick overview, imagine uploading one of your trainings onto their platform and it transcribes everything you said in that video. And if there's anything that you don't want in the video, you read through the transcript and you delete it and it's gone from the video. Or if you want to move something that you said at the beginning of the video to the end, because you think, oh, this makes better sense in the sequence that way, copy paste into a new section and it edits the video for you. So that's just a glimpse where video editing can become much more accessible now so that you can leverage a lot of the video backlog content that you have in your work. So again, looking for hidden gold. Oh, before I forget, the reason I have this screenshot over here on the right, different client, different industry. She was a hairstylist, and I was helping her. I was I was being her guest. She wanted to showcase she has a very specific guest onboarding experience for her salon. She asked a very specific set of questions to make sure that her hairstylist clients are always happy with their hairstyle and with the products that she recommends. So I sat in and we filmed this entire conversation and I was answering like I was about to get my hair done by her. And it was about, let's say, a 10-minute video. We repackaged that video and called it, what was it? Oh, how to slay your hair consultations. So this 10-minute video became one of the videos that she included in her mastermind program. It was part of her vault of pre-recorded trainings for anyone that signed up for her 12-month mastermind. But that video was just the back and forth of her asking me questions, my answer, and just seeing how she would respond on the fly. She also can sell that that 10-minute video as a separate training. She sold this, I helped her sell this for $97 as a low ticket offer. If someone didn't, perhaps they weren't quite ready for her more expensive mastermind, we pulled that training out, sold it by itself as just its singular mini training of nailing the perfect guest consultation. So see how she can use that multiple ways, and you can use one video or a series of videos in multiple ways too. And one other example, also from the hairstyles industry, I pulled this out because I also know I want to break down the myth that with digital products, it has to be polished and perfect in order to sell it. So this hairstylist, her name is Tawana. She was doing these, gosh, I think they're like 4-hour classes online where she would work one-on-one with a new stylist who wanted to learn her technique on applying hair extensions. So that's context of her industry. So she'd be getting on these long, long Zoom calls where she's in real time doing the work, teaching, and the other person is also doing the work and following along with her and answering questions. We took those recordings and we, edited down any of the extra dead space and whatnot, gave it an intro and outro, and she sells this digital version of her class. I think if you booked in person, it might be $1,500. There's a digital version of this class now that she is selling for cheaper because she's not, teaching it live. But this is what it looks like. It's a Zoom recording. And the only polish we really added was, again, cutting out the dead space, adding an intro and outro. But because what she was teaching inside was so valuable, it doesn't it didn't matter that it wasn't this extravagant production value. So I just wanted to show you all this too. If you're hesitant on like, well, I do have a recording, but it's like a little messy and it's not, as polished as I would want. That's completely fine because if the content is good and you know what your audience is looking for and you can help them get a result, then you can absolutely package that into a digital product. And then the third factor I want to talk about is choosing the right format. So there's different formats that you can save your digital product in, and deciding which one is correct depends on the type of craft that you're creating and how you want people to ultimately use your digital file. So the most common one is JPEG or a PNG. So if you're selling art like prints, illustrations, or calligraphy pieces, then a HiPeg, JPEG, or PNG file is ideal. The only difference with the PNG file is there's a transparent background. That's really ideal for those of you who might need designing perhaps visual elements. Perhaps it's iconography or iconography, or perhaps like decorative elements that people can use in their own projects. This is best because it gives them clear, crisp images that are perfect for these downloadable prints. Think of what someone might want to download to display on their desk or on their wall, or if they're pieces that they want to use for their own design projects. The iPad drawings that I showed a few slides ago, that's a perfect example of where you could export perhaps flowers, is what I was showing in the iPad. A set of flower sketches that you've done, and someone could, build their own invitation using your flower digital elements, right? The next format you'll commonly see is a PDF. These are great if you are creating anything or if you already have something that's either a template, perhaps it's a fillable worksheet or checklist that you can give to your audience. A PDF is great because, again, they can print it, they could fill it out. I saw one person, she was a calligrapher where she made these calligraphy practice sheets, and she was selling them to her audience so that they could print it out and they could practice their calligraphy by tracing over and over on her sheets. So perhaps there's something where you can help your audience practice with a technique that you're teaching. That would be great to save as a PDF and sell online. Now, video tutorials are great if you are demonstrating a skill, especially for a very hands-on skill where someone really wants to see how your hand is moving, how your body is positioned or postured, or how you're piecing certain things together. Those are great for skill demos and, again, teaching very specific techniques. And then finally, there's the ebook format. This is great if you want to be sharing a collection of knowledge or tips that are arranged in like a step-by-step guide or like in a certain sequence where you might need chapters. Ebooks is a really great way to combine perhaps different elements that you might have taught in the past. And it's also a great way to really collect your most valuable tips and resources that people are constantly asking you about. You can kind of point them to one place and say, hey, Your question is answered in this ebook, as well as all the other questions that will probably come up once question number 1 is answered. I do actually want to mention one other format, and it's technically not a digital product, but it's worth mentioning, in my opinion, and that is print on demand. And that is when you can take anything that you've designed and you could have it be printed on a poster, clothing, a mug, any sort of physical merchandise that you can think of. And what's great is there's many platforms out there right now where you're able to upload your designs and create stunning products quickly. So I have a little screenshot here from a platform called Printful, where you can upload and you could actually generate mock-ups within their platform of what does my design look like on a shirt? What does my design look like if I was to make an 11 by 17 poster or any other sized wall art? And remember before when I talked about how digital products are great because there's low overhead? In the case of print on demand, um, you're not having to save any inventory. They're only printing it if someone wants to buy your shirt. That's the only time they're going to print and ship this particular product. Now, there are certain fees, of course, involved with having a subscription to Printful, but as far as having inventory for physical products or shipping, that's no longer a barrier. You're just basically focusing on uploading your particular design onto this platform. There's a couple other ones I'll mention too, in addition to Printful. You can also check out something called Redbubble. Redbubble, all one word. That's another one where you can upload your custom artwork to. So I know I went through a lot of different examples, and here I would actually just like to pause because if any of what I was saying was getting your gears going, we could take a moment here and say like, okay, how can we brainstorm what your digital product idea could be? And I actually have some questions to help you narrow down ideas in case you have quite a few. And narrowing down is really key because it's one thing to have a really long list of ideas, but it's another to get really focused on what's one idea that you can walk away with from the training today and actually take action on. So here's 3 questions I would like you to ask yourself. The first one is, which of your existing pieces, again, what have you already made? Which of your existing pieces is the easiest or most exciting to sell digitally? What's the easiest thing that you can digitize if you've got a bunch of paper art sitting somewhere in your office or home? If you're someone who has a lot of videos in your backlog, which video could you just polish just enough and package into a paid product? Like that example I showed you with the hairstylist, she had a Zoom recording, trimmed out some stuff, and she was selling it as an online class. And then lastly, what format would make it really easy for your audience to enjoy and use your work? Is it a PDF that they can fill out? Is it a JPEG or PNG that they're printing, artwork online? Is it an ebook or is it a video? Those are different questions that you can ask yourself. And I would actually love to take this moment to see, one, if there are questions, and two, if anyone actually wants to share what came up when I was talking of like what your idea might be. And I'll defer to you, Heather, on the whole unmuting and
Yeah, thank you, Klara. Wow, this was a lot of information. I bet some of us are full, some of us are still hungry. So, yes, we'd love to hear from you. What was coming up for you? I don't see any questions in the chat unless I missed something. I know we have a go back about GIMP, but right now, in terms of this, what's coming up for you? Feel free to unmute. All right, I'm seeing, wow, such great ideas. I think my IFEP workshop that I did 2 years ago. Excellent. Excellent. We do have a question. Lisa's asking, as a calligrapher, if you sell downloadable JPEG images, it can be used over and over. How do you protect your work from being used in ways you didn't intend? Excellent question. I would think of it a different way, but I want Clara to answer that.
so oftentimes if you're using a platform, let's say like Etsy, there is different licensing. Or Shutterstock actually might even be a better example. Shutterstock is a stock photography site. And now I know you didn't mention it was a photo, but just in terms of my example.
It could
There are
be
certain
empower.
platforms
Yeah.
like Shutterstock where you can actually specify the licensing that you want your work to have. Like, is this something where someone can use it and alter it? Is there someone where they have to give you attribution? Is it something where, they are not allowed to use it XYZ ways? Now, here's the thing. There's obviously language that you can put in your product listing or on these platforms with licensing involved. If someone is downloading your work and they do use it in a way that you do not want them to intend, there is language that you can then point to. But it is a little bit challenging when it's out in the wild in terms of like pursuing, someone who is, abusing your work in a way that you didn't intend. But the first step, at least, is having language in place on how you do want your work to be used. And I have a follow-up to that too, which is the question, and I get this a lot, is if I'm sharing a link to something, especially if it's an editable template, what is stopping someone from sharing that template to their friend? Like one person paid for it, but then they share it to 10 other people. And the candid truth is there really isn't, right? Like I've had people share logins with me for things. Hell, Netflix. I'm like on my my in-laws Netflix account. Let's just take that as an example. Um, Technically, yeah, Netflix would like me to create my own account and use it and pay them, right? But, I have a friend who was willing to share this with me. I have a family member. And while that possibility is absolutely out there, I also don't want that to be that the fear of that to be the thing that makes you not post the thing online. Because I have the belief that you will attract the people who are honest, will pay you for the value of what you have created and not do the crappy thing of just, reselling it at scale or like just giving it away without your permission. So that's sort of my perspective on that because that question has come up especially with links to templates. Unless you're going to go to the route where you lock down the link and just, you know, only grant people with a certain email address to have access to it. That is one way you could lock it down, but on a broader scale, it is a little tougher. And Heather, yes.
Yeah, I was going to offer a couple of things. I
Yeah.
personally design things that if it goes out into the world, it's got either my contact information, my logo, my copyright with my website or my name, just so that it's like if it does go beyond where I think it should go, at least I'm attached to it somehow. The other thing is you have to make a decision about how much do you want to police your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to. I will share that I have many times have woken up at first thing in the morning and I get on social media and I find out that someone has stolen my work and shared it with a bunch of people. And then I'm like, oh, how do I deal with that? Right. And so what I have found with that is that I don't. I usually send them a nice letter. Hey, I'm really glad you I would say in the beginning I didn't. I was not my best self, but nowadays, learn from me. I would send them a nice letter and say, "Hey, it looks like you're really valuing my work. I'd appreciate it if you not share that. I love this statement. If you give my stuff away that I use to make a living at, I don't eat." I just love that statement. I don't eat. I can't feed my family. I can't do whatever. So I'll send a nice email, and then if they keep doing it, you can find a really simple letter online that is like a cease and desist letter. You can even hire an attorney for 200 bucks to write one for you. I mean, you can take it as far as you want. But for me, you can watermark things, put your name on it, so that people can come back to you. But I think I mean, it's really up to you. How does that feel, Lisa? Does that align with you?
Yeah, that's super great. It was super helpful answers. And I was just thinking as you were finishing up, Heather, it would be a great other class if you were able to share some of kind of how you do that,
Sure.
watermarking and however else you were saying that you do that.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's a tricky thing to understand and know how to best implement that digitally.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I will put
Thank
that
you.
on the list. Thank you.
Thanks.
It looks like
Another cool thing. Oh,
yeah, go ahead. No, go
I was just
ahead.
gonna
Let's
chime
stay on
in
topic.
because about the policing your work. One one wonderful perk when you also have created a wonderful community like the way Heather is your community ends up looking out for you, where if they notice like, "Hey, I know that's Heather's work and so is like pretending it's theirs." Because I've been with a couple clients where their community members are like messaging them and letting them know it's like, "Hey, this is happening." And so it is kind of wonderful when your community also looks out for you. Like if you don't have the capacity to police your work, like Heather was saying, a lot of times maybe your community is even doing it for you and helping you out in that way.
Yeah, I didn't want to put anybody on the spot, but some of you have done that for me, so I thank you for that. Yeah. And Ellen is asking, wondering if our calligraphy guild could record our quarterly programs and package them to attract future members. Absolutely. I'll give you a couple of examples of how this is being used by other calligraphy guilds. The calligraphy guilds and recording your quarterly programs and then packaging them for future members. Doesn't matter if it's monthly, quarterly, or whatever. If you are already recording your programs, you can go in and decide which ones you want to share out and how you want to do that. And here's some suggestions. I know that some of the guilds that I've presented for, they have asked me, can we record? So make sure you're asking your guests this. If we record, can we post it on YouTube for free? Which is a great way to let everybody know about your guild, and I've done that. If we put it on a platform where only members see it, can we promote you as a here's one of the things you get as a member, these online or these on-demand videos. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Again, doesn't matter if it's quarterly or otherwise, but always get permission from the presenter if you can do that. Does that help answer the question, Ellen? All right, thank you, Yuli. I'm glad you have my back. I put some examples in there in the chat in terms of if you're a calligrapher, visual practitioner, what are some quick tips?
Actually, I was gonna ask because she did chime in. Is it Yili? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Um, you said that you thought of a workshop that you did 2 years ago, and I'm curious, why did that one pop up for you as the one you want to move forward with?
Um, yeah, great question. I'm just thinking because maybe some of the folks on the line are also FVP members, and it was just a really fun workshop around Ikigai, and basically, it was during the pandemic, and it was trying to figure out like who am I, what is it that I'm good at, what is it that I want to put into the world, and then also what is it that I can make money on, because it was during the pandemic, and many of us were forced to switch from paper and pen, which was what I was used to digital. Um, so I'm just thinking how that's actually still relevant nowadays. We're still dealing with uncertainty and figuring out who we are and how that can align with what we can sell.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you brought up about what it was in that workshop that you thought worked well because it 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 really helps too because it sounds like that was very timeless content that you spoke about in terms of like what's important to you and you know what you want to teach. I would actually say that that's another good question, a prompt to help you generate or narrow down your idea is a video recording that you've had in the past, is it something that's just very timeless? That no matter if someone gets your digital product now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is it still relevant? Especially if it's very principle based, that has such long longevity that you could constantly be pointing back to that type of content throughout the years.
Yeah, I love that. Looking for the gold. You're so good at that, Clara. I also want to remind folks that if you're developing your own IP, intellectual property, that's great. But if you're using things that already exist, other people's intellectual property, just do a quick check to see if it's open source or customize it in some way. And I don't know about Ikigai. I don't know if that's where that is, but back over to you, Clara. Looks like you've got something else for us.
Okay. This last section is just talking about how you could be promoting your digital products on social media. And of course, this could be a very large topic and its own training itself. But I just really want to just touch on types of posts, three types of posts that can get your gears going on how you can then talk about your digital product once you have narrowed down on the idea. And I want you to think of social media as a marketing engine that is really about showcasing your process to build awareness and trust. I know that in the survey that Heather had sent out, there might be those of you who are perhaps new or perhaps uncomfortable with the idea of selling on social, the idea of selling ourselves online. And I just want to see if you could flip how you perceive that. And it's not about selling, it's about showcasing your process, right? And yes, at the end, there so happens that there is something that they can buy at the end. But really, when you're sharing stories about how you create or created this beautiful piece of work, then it becomes less icky and less about the selling, right? So let's talk about how we could do that across three types of posts. So the first post I want to talk about is a product showcase, which is a post that is highlighting your digital product. And this is really about showing what that product looks like in action. So for those of you with having digital art, maybe you're showing mock-ups of how that digital art or digital print looks in a digital frame hanging on a wall or on someone's desk. Or it's a preview of your template that you've made as well. A lot of times, you might have seen this. I know Target does this, where when you're thinking of buying a shelf and you don't know if it's gonna fit in the corner of the room that you want, they have those was it augmented reality things where you could take a picture of your room and it says like, hey, here's how it looks in the room. Well, that's very close to what we're trying to do here with our digital products. This is what this piece of work could look like on the wall, on your desk, or even if you're someone who wants to sell your art as, let's say, wallpapers. I love digital wallpapers. I download them for my desktop. I download them for my phone. How would that look like on someone's device as a wonderful, cool background? That's another type of mockup that you can think of for your work. Second type of post is process behind the scenes type post. So this is the one where you're giving people a look at how you created it. This is where you'll see on social media a lot of time lapses being shared because people are getting to see in real time from beginning to end, or maybe just a portion of how something is being made, whether that's painting, drawing, or otherwise. It doesn't have to be a video though. It could just also be photos, progress photos taken at different times, showing the evolution of a piece of work. It could also be a photo of your workspace. That's a little bit of insight. Like, this is where I create my work. This is my office, or I like to create when I'm outside or at a coffee shop. What's the photo of the creative workspace that you love to work in? People love seeing the creative process, and there's a connection that they can feel if they say like, oh, Klara likes drinking that type of tea while she draws too, and maybe that also sparks a conversation and feeling of connection, right, as you created that work. And then the last type of promo post is how to use your product. So demoing how someone can use it. And it's a little different than just the mock-up. This one is where, again, video can be very powerful in showing, let's say you have a digital template, actually showing perhaps a screen recording of how someone can actually fill that template out to make it their own, to customize it for their use case, right? And maybe there's a mini tutorial of how someone can create something beautiful using the technique that you taught. This is actually a great type of post too. If you ever have people who learn your technique, let's say, or use something that you've created and made it into their own finished piece, you could crowdsource user generated content and even be showing a slideshow. It's like, look at what can be made. Look at these results from the other people based on a product that you have created. Right. So I've pulled just a few examples, and right now they're all from Instagram, but this could really translate to multiple other platforms. I just want you to see how these creators are showcasing their work and see if you can insert, what you've created into this type of example. So this is one from the Creative Bix, and I'm just going to play it real quick. So I'll mute that. This is a very classic type of time lapse where she's drawing. Now, granted, she's drawing on her iPad. So she just basically has a simple top-down view of how she's creating this particular, I think it's like a a lettering piece that she's making. This same idea could be if you're drawing on paper, it could be another top-down view of just you creating that particular piece of work.
Okay.
And what's great is this is the kind of video, I'm even doing it now, that I could watch multiple times because I notice something new each time that I watch this tutorial. And this is a case where she was showing the very beginning to the very end, but it doesn't, again, have to be the entire thing. It could just be one little section, perhaps, of a flip chart that you've done. It doesn't have to be like the entire thing because you could start dripping out. Imagine like a series of you showing process videos like this before revealing the entire finished work. So that's one example that I like to share.
I love this. Can I just see a show of hands? Who thought this was real for like the first time? Oh my gosh. And some of us who are visual practitioners, we create what are called scribe videos, which we know aren't really real, but this one was a little bit more real than those. So yeah, what a trip. Thank you for sharing that. It even gave me some
Oh,
ideas on how I might share a project, even if it was using a real camera. Great.
I didn't mean to stop sharing there.
No,
Yeah,
it's
and,
fine.
and even like I said, and just replace this tablet with paper. It could just be honestly your hands with paper. And the other thing, oh, the other reason I want to show this too is for those of you who perhaps don't necessarily want to just jump all on camera first. There's this idea of, is does faceless marketing work where where your face is not the one on the video all the time? Well, this is a perfect example where it could still be like your hands on your workspace. So it's still custom and unique to you, but your face doesn't have to necessarily be in it. It's just you're letting your work and your process speak for itself. Okay. There's another one. Oops. This is another example where if you are using perhaps a very specific platform, in this case, this person is using Illustrator, but insert platform of choice. This one, instead of hands, it's a screen recording. I pulled this one because this person was showcasing a bubble font that they had created. So this was an example of showing, oh, here's the different letters and how I styled them, and this is how like I made it. And the other thing I want you to notice is she has a comment here, comment bubble, and I'll send you this font for free. This is a very popular technique in terms of getting engagement on a particular post where they show you something cool. And if you want to know more about it, or if you want access to something related to it, asking people to drop a comment below and then they'll send them that item. Now, in this case, this was a free font, but think of it as, remember when I told you you could staircase or breadcrumb people to the paid thing that you're ultimately wanting to sell? Let's say you have a free font that you share for free, and then someone gets the free font and it says, I actually have 4 other font styles that, insert amount. And if you like this free font, then you might want these other variations for X amount of dollars. And that's one way you could staircase people into, ascend people into a paid product. Now, you could also say, you don't necessarily have to start out with it being free. You could say, hey, I'll send you this font where you can, get instant access and download it for whatever monetary value you ascribe to it. But I like that this was showcasing the process of how she made this particular design element. This third example, I pulled because the first 2 I showed you were very video based, but it doesn't have to be video. It could absolutely be photos. This was a type of behind the scenes type post where this person has staged in his work and he has very specific brand colors because he's also promoting a book. But he's basically showcasing his work on a table with his tools around him, the different markers and whatnot that he's using. This happens to be a carousel, and he was teaching a workshop. So these are photos of the different work being shown. Oh, I think of his students that were attending the workshop. But I just wanted to show you here because these are different angles, again, of how you could be showcasing something on paper You could obviously insert yourself in it like he does. It's a photo of him working in progress. So there's a snippet of him. He doesn't even have to be looking at the camera. It's like we're in it with him, like we're there sitting with him as he's creating the work. And then here's an example too where I think he's broadcasting this while teaching something online. I think this is a great behind the scenes shot of how he is being able to teach his expertise to people online and digital. Yeah, so that's an example. This happens to be a carousel. If you just start with one photo, that's a great place to start too. It doesn't have to be a long multi-stage carousel. Okay, this is just my last example that I have from something on my website. So one of the templates that I love creating are Canva templates. And so I have a brand kit Canva template, and I made 5 specific images of demonstrating of, what does this template look like when other people have it filled out. So I start with an image of the template blank, with placeholder text and images. And then these are actually ones where it's filled out with specific colors and the logo. And of course, some more information about what this template is able to do, such as it's fully customizable, the format you can download it as, and just benefits of why someone should get this Canva template. Now, these 5 images are on my website, but these same 5 images could again be a carousel on Instagram. I could take these same 5 images and post it on Pinterest. Same 5 images, I could send it in an email if I've got an email list. Reuse the promo post that you create in as many marketing channels as possible. So those are the examples that I had pulled to hopefully get, again, your gears turning.
I love it. Thank you so much, Klara. We have a quick go back about GIMP. And I think it's a
Oh,
bigger
okay.
question. The first question is it really free? And also, if we're using it, are they sampling the work for AI? Do you know any of the terms and conditions or anything like that around GIMP?
For the AI stuff, I do not know specifically if it's basically then being sampled for, the other AI tools. I do not have an answer for that. For GIMP, let me actually just pull up the difference with what their free versus paid stuff is.
Yeah. And I just saw Yuli's actual question. It was any thoughts on copyright between GIMP versus Adobe Scan versus Photoshop? So again, I don't know. That might be something like we need to read the fine print, but do you offhand know?
I don't want to misspeak, so I can look into that. But yeah, I don't want to misspeak as far as like in terms of which one is essentially stronger copyright protection. I think that's the essence of the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't want to misspeak on that. So I can absolutely look into it. And
Yeah.
I know that it's a concern because even Adobe products, right? They have these new they call it generative AI tools now that they have in Photoshop and Illustrator where you type in a phrase and it spits out images for you. So there is a lot of powerful stuff in terms of the AI features that these platforms are inserting. But as far as protection, I think because I tend to use these generative AI as additional decorative elements as opposed to that complement my work, but it's not my actual work. So that's why I haven't really run into that same worry. Where if you're designing your flip chart and it's absolutely custom to you and you're just using some other decorative elements to make it stand out in your mock-up, that's probably less concerning than I think if you were planning to use any of these AI tools to generate like the piece itself. So but I can come back with as far as like the copyright concerns, Heather.
Thanks. I appreciate
You.
that. I would love to ask Clara a few questions. If you don't mind, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, Clara, because but I want to ask, and I did put your shop in the chat. So if anybody wants to see some more digital products, I wanted to ask you, Clara, in terms of classes that you offer, things that you offer, where would you like people to know more about you? How can they learn more? And knowing that we have this big spectrum of people at different levels of social media, of creating products, like what are some of the key, I guess, products that you would recommend that you offer that we could go to learn more from you? And then what's like the learning level, like beginner, intermediate, advanced, however you want to describe that?
I would say one of my most entry-level products, there's a mini course I have called Digital Downloads Made Easy. I point to that mini course because of all the different formats that I mentioned, the digital download is the easiest one to just get up and running because it doesn't involve any video. Because usually once you introduce video, then there's the video editing and some post-production, etc. But the digital downloads is all about like how can you create like these digital files. And so that's the mini course that I point to people first. And it's actually one that I'm going to continue to build out even more. There's lessons there about Google Docs, spreadsheets, Canva. But I kind of actually, in putting together this presentation for your group, I actually want to flesh that out even more to cater more to this audience because you guys do have a lot of stuff on paper that's beautiful. Like, how do you get it up there? And actually teaching you like the bones of the logistics of how do you get it step by step from the piece of paper to this beautiful digital file. So that's one I would start out with. And then the second way I love supporting people is I have a membership, the one that Heather is also in, the Digital Empire membership. And it's basically 2 trainings similar to what you just experienced from me. So if you like my teaching style, I do trainings like this inside the membership where I can also answer questions. And I have weekly Q&A threads for if there's a question that's keeping you stuck or if there's a piece of content that you want me to look at, I'm able to support people there. And I love the membership for those who know that they really want to be launching and adding digital products to their product suite as another stream of revenue, because this is all about us working smarter, not harder, and helping you being able to leverage your knowledge in as many ways as possible is really something I'm passionate about inside that membership.
Yes, and when you say, those kind of members, would you say that these are more serious participants that are really ready? Not just,
Yes,
like,
yes, yes.
beginning, but, like, they've got it, they're ready, and they wanna know more?
This membership is great. I think thank you for asking that. This membership is great for um, people who have existing businesses and are already very clear about the audience that they're selling to and have sold their services already to the audience. And it's now a matter of figuring out how do I best translate things that I've sold as a service into a digital product that can make me more income in the background, make me more money in less time.
Okay. I think that's a really important distinction, and I wanna say that not to scare people away because I think the membership has been the number one, like, the most valuable thing that you've provided me, and many people know here I've already sold some courses and sold some products, and there are things that Klara told me a year ago that I wrote down that is still on my to-do list, and I was like, "That was brilliant. I'm gonna get to that someday." And so she's constantly adding value. Let's see. Yeah, I just got a question. Do you want to plug her? Yes, absolutely. So thank you. Yeah, I think you probably could be. Would Heather get an affiliate link? No, no, no. I don't. But that's okay
I
because
haven't
I'm
set it
here.
up yet. I'm working.
I'll be the first one to sign up. Amanda's a quick go back. Amanda's asking any guidance on how to decide which digital products make available for free versus one to sell. Now, I have a very strong feeling about that only because I had to learn the hard way. But Clara, I'm gonna pass this over to you because I know you're gonna give us a great
This is a
answer.
juicy one. Okay,
Oh
that's a
boy, it
juicy
is.
question. Okay, I need a minute to gather myself. All right, here's my perspective on it. Um, when you're thinking about your content, right? Which of the content is in the goodwill content bucket, and which is the one that let's say is the transformational content? Goodwill content might be your best stuff, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to show them how to go from whatever small result you're going to give them, right? I consider goodwill content ones where you can give that person watching or consuming content a quick win. Quick win is my definition of within 48 hours, they can get a win with whatever you've just taught them. And that builds up a tank of goodwill. It was free. You got them a result in a short, something that you're charging for. So when you think about what's for free, what can you teach them for free that gets them that result within 48 hours? Because we know that we can teach other techniques that for them to really adopt it, implement and master it, we know it's going to take them more time than that 48 hours, right? Or it's going to take them maybe some feedback or like back and forth iterations. That's the stuff that's more in the transformation stuff that you could sell, because that one takes more time. I also want to add that for those who are afraid that if I give away my free stuff, then they'll never want to buy from me, right? Like that's a question that comes up. That's a concern, right? If you think that way, then I think you're potentially like not giving yourself credit for the type of person that you would attract if you were to give away the Goodwill content. I have a video within my membership, and it was called um I think how to brainstorm 15 digital product ideas in 5 minutes. It's one of the lessons inside phase 1 of the membership. And I think it's a really powerful lesson. I took that out and I put it on. I don't know if you guys have seen, like, there's a landing page I think Heather was sharing. It's one of the videos on that page. And the reason I wasn't afraid to put that out is because I know that just because someone gets the idea, it's not going to get them all the way there to their ultimate dream of having this digital product suite that's making passive income. It's just one step, right? So don't be afraid to share one step, because you know that there's actually more steps involved to get people the success that they're really looking for. So I hope that made sense as far as of how you can think of what you want to share for free, give them that little win, little push, because you know that new questions will pop up after they get that quick win, and that's where your more premium products can come in. Mhm.
Oh, this is the scary part. So I learned the hard way because I gave everything away in the beginning. I just kept giving it away, didn't know when to stop. And I mean, I've been doing this. I've been online teaching since 2016. So it's been a bit, right? And I will say that it wasn't until this year and taking and learning how to script, meaning write and talk about what I'm offering, that I learned from Klara, what, 2 weeks ago? That I really realized, "Oh, there's the line. There's the line of here's what I need to share and offer value and be of service because this is all about aligned with my values, and here's what's behind the paywall." Now, I am really sensitive, and it's probably why it's taken me this long to get here. I am really sensitive to marketing jargon. As soon as I see a certain layout or a certain formula, I'm like, "Yuck, I don't even wanna be a part of it." That already tells me about the person. And then over this last year, I have been going to a lot of summits. I've been taking a bunch of free bundles. I've been seeing what people are doing. And I'm like, you know what? These are like really well meaning people that are experts in their whatever the thing they're teaching. And maybe they're just either really good or not really good at getting it out there. And so for me, I've had to find a balance between, okay, here's the formula. What would I say? Now, what is not so like skeezy feeling? Like I don't feel like yucky if I say this, right? So does it pass my heart test or whatever the criteria is, right? So I have to put it through a couple of filters before it feels good. And I've worked with other coaches and business coaches that give me scripts and I'm just like, "Oh, yuck." Like I can't do it. And Clara's are she will like you got to like right here, and this is what's great about the membership is she'll say, "Okay, here's the script. Now right here is where you really need to like say this clearly, succinctly." It's like I would wanna say a whole paragraph, and she's like, "Okay, let's whittle this down. Here's the one sentence." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that just gave so much impact. That just brought so much value." So, I don't know if that's helpful, but for me, I had to learn the long way. And I encourage all of you, especially if you're considering, bringing in AI, that don't let AI completely write for you, but AI can be a helpful tool in getting some of the outlines and some things down. All right.
Can I just chime
Oh,
in one more
yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because while you were talking, if you've got a lot of free content online and it's not converting to something paid, I don't think it's the fact that you're sharing free content that's the problem. It's the messaging that you're not being very clear on telling people what to do next. What is the paid thing that they should look at next? Because if you throw a bunch of like how-to tutorials out there, but there's nothing at the end that say, and if you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to learn something more advanced, I also have XYZ. And if you're not teaching them that, then it's not on the user, it's on you to direct them to the thing that you're selling. So take a
That's
look at, like, perhaps you have free videos out there that you can just even just adding that message at the end or something throughout to point them to what's the next thing.
That's right. And so I put in the chat CTAs, which is a call to action. Tell them where they can learn more. Don't be shy about that because they want to know. Because if they say, oh, well, I'm going to go back to their profile and then I'm going to click their link and then I might get to a page that may show me where I want. Okay, you know what? Their phone has rang. They've already got a notification email and the baby's crying. Like they've already lost, like they've already been so distracted they can't even get there. So just tell them. And remember that selling and sharing that with them is an act of service. The other piece, and this is where I'm pretty sure if Lisa's still on the call, she's going to say, I want that class. Okay, Lisa, be ready. And that is, where is that person in the customer journey? Right? Is this the first time they've heard about you? Have they heard about you a few times? This is why Klara she was in my, I guess, orb somewhere out there in my orbit a few years ago, and she got closer and closer and closer. And now I'm like, I'm going to buy everything that you offer because I know that what she's given me is such great value that I'm there. But I am in a very different place in my customer journey with Klara than all of you are probably, unless all of you knew her before. If some of you downloaded the free download that was in the email that went out with the welcome email, you're just a little bit warmer. If you attended today or if you're watching this recording, now you know a little bit more, right? And so be thinking about that too, that you're not going to give everybody the whole you're not going to open up your all of the things that you know to someone who's brand new. So there's that mark of how much do you show the person that you've just met. Same thing with being in a social atmosphere. You're not going to tell everybody your whole life story next to the appetizer table, right? So you're just going to give them a little bite. Yeah. Klara, anything else you want to add?
Not to that question. I was prepping myself for the next one. I saw
Okay,
something from yeah.
great. Yeah. Okay. So some questions that came in. Do we want to go to those? Because we
Yeah,
had
I can
some
do
from the survey. So thank you for those of you who asked some questions in the survey. What art-related digital products have you had the most success with? Can you think of some examples?
If I took that question as a me personally, what I've had the most success with, so I was going to point back to the templates. Specifically, I have a lot of success with Google Doc templates and Canva templates because I have a designer background already. I was already using these tools almost every day in my business. I had found that I was already making things for clients, right? Like that brand kit Canva template is because when I did logo designs for clients, I was making their brand kit uh, file for them and then giving it to them. And it was like, oh, why am I not just selling this? I do this all the time. And that was one of the first templates I ever started selling online. And so I have a lot of success at looking at the things I'm already making for clients because there is very then little additional work I have to do. It's just more about connecting it to like a product listing page and whatnot. And templates are my jam because again, it goes back to what type of audience are you trying to attract? I'm trying to attract people who are doers, who want to take a template that I've made and actually do something with it. If perhaps you are attracting an audience where it's not about doing, it's more like perhaps an aesthetic. Your digital art is meant for someone who wants to have a certain aesthetic in their office or space, then perhaps just the digital prints would have more success for you. But it goes back to who is your audience and how do you want them to use it?
Love that. Another question was, and I have to laugh at this one. And some of you, this is a very serious question. What are the best times to post on Instagram? And so we're going to crowdsource this. And if any of you post on Instagram, go ahead and write when are the best times to post on Instagram. Go ahead and put that in the chat because I want this in the chat. What are your best times to post on Instagram? Or what time do you just usually post on Instagram? It's fine. Okay, great. Okay, so after 6 p.m. sounds like after work. Going to guess Fridays for weekends scrollers. If that's your audience, that's a great answer. Best post times mornings. Okay. or evenings for late night scrollers. When you're feeling good, that's awesome. I put 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. 10 a.m. is when people take a break from work, 10 p.m. is when they can't go to sleep. Except, did we just forget about time zones? Hello, the world is awake and asleep all at the same time, right? So I gotta say, I have read blogs and books and all of those, and I still can't find the right answer. And so my answer to you is find your right time for your audience. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and there was a great question. I'm so glad, yes, Claire, for answering that. Is there a way to find what are the keywords and people using to search for digital downloads? And Claire just put in there, check out Answer the Public. Thank you very much. And that's really an SEO question, wouldn't you say, Clara?
Yes, it's an SEO question, which is not that is not my domain of expertise, but at least Answer the Public. That particular link is showing you what tends to be some of the queries that people type in online, whether it's Google or Amazon or whatnot. Honestly, a lot of the whenever Google or Amazon tries to guess what you're about to type, that's usually an indicator of how often a particular phrase has popped up. But, yeah, having an SES expert, that's actually something I've been wanting to bring into the membership as well, because that's a very great question,
Yeah.
SEO in general as a topic.
Yeah. There are two SEO people that I highly recommend, and I'm going to also put these in the chat in just a second. I've got to do some research a little bit, but I want to go back to the next question. I create custom infographics and e-learnings. So I don't know if the person that said that's here, but I'm just going to give some advice and then I'll get you see if you have anything to add on, Clara. First, I would ask, are the infographics already a product or is it a service? And how could you productize it in order to monetize it? That's all I really have. What would do you have anything to add, Clara?
Yeah, I had a hard time figuring out because I didn't know if the person meant she already had stuff that she'd made. Because if she's already made a set of infographics, then I think those are perfect for honestly, the print on demand stuff, or like the digital arts or wallpapers. I think that would be a great use of infographics that she's already done. And then if she's already done a bunch of e-learnings, it sounds like she's at the step where if they're already cleaned up to how she wants it, if they're polished enough, then it's just choosing, where does she want to upload them to so that people have access to them. And I also know that's also a bigger topic as far as like, where do I go to, upload my videos or course material?
Right. Yeah. And that has a lot to do with just the context of the question, too. All
Mhm.
right. So I put those SEO specialists that I recommend in the website. Those were just some quick links. So you might want to go back to their homepage and definitely check those out. So then the next one is can you say more or have resources? Oh, we already talked about that in terms of learning about product development. You've given us some really great resources on your site. And then someone was wondering for suggestions on what to think about when starting to post online, advantages, disadvantages of various platforms. Do you have any suggestions about platforms and how the approach should be? One question is do I post the
Mhm.
same thing on all platforms? Might be an example.
Yeah, I can hear the different nuances of the question. So the first question is, if you're just getting started, um, please just start by picking one platform and pick the platform where one, you know that your audience will most likely be hanging out at, and two, the one where you feel that you can most consistently post to it. Because when it comes to posting online, think less about frequency and more about consistency. It's not about having to post every single day. It's, can you consistently post something, whether it's once a week? I saw in the survey some of y'all are doing maybe once a month. I think a really good cadence to start with is, can you do something once a week and then build up from there? Build up the consistency first. And once you have that consistency, you have a backlog of items that you posted to one platform. That's when you can consider, okay, let me push to a second platform, right? Because you have that backlog of content. And when you're figuring out what to post, I think of it a really simple way in terms of a 3-post formula is grow, nurture, sell. So rotate between 3 types. A grow type of post is something personal or a creative insight for the new followers so they can get to know you. A nurture post is progress shots, those behind the scenes content of the work that you're doing, so that people get to regularly see, oh, this is what Claire's about. This is what she's showing. This is what she does. And then the sell part is that's when you can be showcasing the finished work and saying like, hey, this is available to purchase on these platforms. So grow, nurture, sell are really the three types of posts. That's as simple as I can make it. And then in terms of like selling, I usually try to balance like the 80-20 rule where 80% of my content is that goodwill content that I was talking about, either goodwill or personal insight content. And then 20% of it is I'm outright saying, hey, this is available. Here's a limited time deal, etc. And I want you to think about this too, because we know Black Friday is coming up. And this is a perfect time, like, especially if you feel like you haven't posted in a while, how can you naturally reinsert yourself back into the social media conversation? Well, we know Black Friday's coming up, and this is a chance where you could offer a deal. It's a perfect segue. It doesn't feel like it's coming out of left field, even though you should never have to worry about that, right? So I hope that helps with like getting started or getting started again.
That's great. That's great. Hopefully that answers the questions. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. All right. So glad you had a great time. If you need to drop off, I totally understand. Thank you so much, Klara. Any final words from you? I know that's putting you on the spot, but any final words?
I am so happy that I got to speak to a group live because seeing y'all's faces and seeing the questions, this is what it's all about, teaching live.
Yeah.
I love the pre-recorded stuff, absolutely with value, but there's nothing quite like being able to be in a room with someone like Heather and all the her community that she attracts. And I had so much fun doing this. And I really thank you again for the opportunity, Heather.
Thank you, Klara. Let's all give Klara some love. Yay. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go into a group coaching session around selling. So we live in hard times. You might feel some guilt about posting online, and that might not feel really great when there's so many other things going on. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to unpack our backpacks a little bit, and we're going to actually leave with some solutions. I promise. I'm really excited to be able to offer this because when I saw the question in the survey, my heart sunk. And at first I was like, okay, well, we're not going to answer that question because it's too hard. And then I went, one of my values, I would say aspirational values that I'm working on is accountability. And so I wanted to really be accountable because I asked for people to ask questions in the survey. And so I need to be accountable and show up. So I thought, well, the best way I know how to answer that question is to facilitate it. So again, I want to thank whoever asked the question in the survey. Again, you don't have to out yourself if you are in the room, so that's not a big deal. But I do want to say that your questions lead us to the areas where we need to explore more. And I just love that we can do this as a group. So now I'm going to share with you how this is going to go. I'm sharing my screen. And if you need to, like me, I need to take a deep breath in, kind of center myself. And I love taking a longer exhale than an inhale because that allows me to slow down my heart rate. My blood pressure goes down. Everything starts functioning a little bit better. All right. So, what I would like to introduce to you today, and if you saw the last email that I sent out, you saw this graphic already and it's full. What I'm at, but part of the question was around how do I post when everything is happening in the world. I feel guilty about putting my stuff out there. And that's not the exact quote. I can't find it now, but what I've done is I've made what's called a vent diagram. Not a Venn diagram, but a vent diagram. And I can share more about that for the facilitators that are interested. But also, we're going to use it like a Venn diagram. So, two things. The world is falling apart and it's heartbreaking. And also, sharing my work feels selfish, yet I need to promote my work in order to survive. And maybe you don't need to promote it in order to survive. Maybe you just want to make it and share it. That's okay too. The world is falling apart and it's heartbreaking. Sharing my work feels selfish, yet I need to promote it to survive. So I'm curious. I would like you to sit for that for a moment. And I'm curious who can feel that right now? Can you feel into that? Does it resonate with you? Okay, I'm seeing some nods, seeing hand. Yeah. What's coming up for you, and feel free to unmute, when you think about both of these statements, either in combination or one at a time? What's coming up for you? Yeah, great. So I wonder, what can I do? Yeah. Yuli's already going to solution. It's okay to be our true selves, to show ourselves. That's absolutely right. Yeah. We need art when the world falls apart. Yeah. That's excellent. I love that. That certainly resonated with my heart. We need art when the world falls apart. Absolutely. Some of you might be afraid of selling. You're like, oh, it's not even that the world's falling apart. It's just hard to do it. That could be a challenge for some of you. Sometimes I feel like, why should I post something? I just feel like I'm screaming into a burning fire or chaos or that type of thing. Like there's just too much other competition out there for attention. Also for me, I just wonder, is what I'm putting out there have any value? Boy, that can be a huge slippery slope, downward spiral into, well, does it have any value? Well, does my work have any value? Well, do I have any value? And pretty soon I'm just like a big gooey lump on the floor. I can't do anything. Okay, so if you're anything like me, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to feel either of these things personally, but something I have learned in building resilience is to hold two things at once, even if they're not comfortable. So, for instance, we can love our parents, children, partners, and siblings, and they can still frustrate us, right? That's something simple. You can still walk with your shoe untied. That's true, right? So there are things that we can hold and we can do two things at once. However, in this instance, neither of these statements feel good. So what do we do? Well, we have to do something with the overwhelming feeling of the state of the world, all of that, and we need to either make art a living or both, right? And yeah, selling may feel wrong to you. I agree. It felt wrong to me for a long time. I sold advertising in a magazine that I was the publisher of because I didn't feel anybody else could really sell the advertising because I wanted to be the face of the magazine. And it was the hardest thing I did. And I had to go and see someone who was an expert in selling to help me understand that selling is a service. And I realized that I couldn't put out into the world what I wanted to do and feel good about it without having some kind of income, right? So I invite you, now that we've thought about all these things, I invite you to actually, if you can, stand up. If not, you can stay seated, but get up or stay seated. And I want you to shake your limbs out. I want you to shake out these limbs and shake out your feet. And I want you to be like, maybe assign something like, I'm afraid of selling, get it out of your arms, right? Or I'm afraid of going forward with this, shake out your legs. And it's just this physical shaking is a really great way, not only to get the circulation going if you've been way too long in Zoom room, but if you've got some emotional stuff and you've been feeling all the feels, that's a great way to get it out. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling chills all over my body. Some of you might be feeling warmer. I felt like a flush of cool air come up. So for me, it's just like a change. So let's just change that. So my question to you is, what if we were selling our digital products or selling our services or something while selling with purpose? What would that look like? What would that feel like to take that energy and turn it into creative expression, which some of you are already doing so well, but then sharing it out? Now I want to know what's coming up for you. What comes up when you think, oh, I can do this? It is a service, it has a purpose. What's coming up for you?
I think it's a neat thought, but it's like I'm not there yet. It raises more questions.
Which part are you not there yet? The world falling apart or the sharing the work feels selfish?
Oh, I was getting at the we share with purpose.
So let's talk a little bit about purpose. If I'm not there yet, if some of you are feeling the same way, I want to say first, let's celebrate the yet. You just gave me a little bit of hope. There's something in there. So you may not be there yet, but now let's talk about what there is. There is the purpose. So be thinking about your values. If you don't have values, you haven't been through a values exercise, that's totally fine. Think about what's important to you, right? So the there, your purpose, can be fueled by your values, what you prioritize. What are some examples? I had a direct message. Someone said, it requires being aligned with what we're making. Well, what do you align with? How I treat others, family, maybe even think a little bit bigger because, yes, family is important. They might even appreciate either the work that you're doing or making work with you if you do that together. But also, what are some, I don't know, it could be uh, organizations or nonprofit organizations that might serve a mission and you believe in their vision around what they do. I love that someone said mental health. Yes, we're still in that making process. That's great. And is mental health for self, for the people you're close to? Could it be organizations that help people who need support with mental health services? What are some other ways we can find purpose in our life? There's a lot of movements that have started or are ongoing since many generations before us. We might align to their purpose. And so I say that because when Lisa shared, well, I'm not there yet, let's go to the core of what's really important to us. And again, you can go back and revisit values, what you prioritize, the organizations or nonprofits or the movements that are happening. Yeah. And already we're seeing some things in the chat in terms of a little bit of a change. And that is, what can we do about it? We can make art. And the word you wrote was positive messages. Love that. And positive messages in a time of need can also be triggering to some people that say, oh, you're just putting a positive wash over it. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I absolutely think that putting positive messages out there is important. They can also be affirmative. They can be helping validate who we are. They can really touch the heart in ways like not just surface positive messages that are pithy, but I okay, I'm addicted to Instagram Reels and I love seeing the types of reels that I stay there long enough because they've got some writing and it's not even calligraphy. It's just like somebody typed it out that's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel right now. They really were able to use words to get to the heart of how I'm feeling, right? So I'm feeling met. I love what Renee shared learning when the student is ready, the educators appear. Can you say more about that? Um, are you the educator that's appearing for folks? Are you being the like modeling the way, the mentor?
I'm not.
I would like to argue that a little bit because you're one of my teachers. So,
I'm in transition and
mhm.
seeing the value of being the student. And when the student is ready, like when I teach students, I know they're ready because then they dig in and they absorb. If the student's not ready, they just flounder.
Well, and I think what you said is a wonderful metaphor for when we're scrolling through social media and we see something we like, we stop. And when we are like, not for me right now, maybe I'm not ready.
Right.
to receive what you offer. Is that close to
Yeah.
what I'm saying, or is that what you were
Yeah.
intending? Or
Yeah. Very much. Very
yeah,
much.
yeah. I think that's wonderful. Mhm.
You know, we're
Right.
all in transition because of the heartbreak of the world falling apart. We're all in transition because, is it selfish of us to focus on our work and to want to support ourselves and support others emotionally and mentally with our work?
Mhm.
And my question is, why should that even be selfish?
Thank
Shouldn't
you.
be.
How many of you are continuing to make art or anything, even though the world is falling apart and it's heartbreaking? How many of you are still doing it? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Kind of all of us. And some of you that are taking a break because you just can't right now. Do you think you ever will again? Did you sell all your supplies? Did you move everything out like I'm done? No, I don't think so. I can still see some supplies in your space, Renee. Right? So the
Right.
reason why I say that is because we might take a pause and just be like, oh, I'm just not feeling it right now. Right. But what I saw in the room was there are a lot of hands of people that are still doing it. And that's great. And I don't know, necessary. Right. In some cases, it's a form of release. It's therapy for many of us. Yeah. This is great. So, one of the other purposes that I saw that came in private chat is authenticity. And actually, I'm going to put that over by the values. And so, for those of you that are interested in values exercises, I have many of them. Also happy to work with any of you to, um, I think I spelled that wrong. I'm also happy to work with any of you one to one if you want to go through a values exercise. But the idea is that really understanding our values can help us get to that purpose. And so when I talk about organizations, nonprofits, and some movements, some things that I've created in the past, and this is one example, is during the Black Lives. Actually, I should restate this. You know the movement that Black Lives Matter. When George Floyd was murdered, I made some visuals and I never intended them to go out into the world. It was me processing. It was me processing. It was very, all my emotions were coming through and out of me and onto the paper. And I got it out, closed my sketchbook, cried, screamed, made some statements online, and walked away. And a few weeks later, cleaning up my studio, came across the body of works that I created around Black Lives Matter, and I started taking pictures of them and I turned them into posts. And they were posts. I'm giving this away. There's no skill involved, just the artwork. And then there was an art show that was coming up locally that people wanted to express themselves in a way that was a reflection of that time. And I took it was like a 12 by 12 or 10 by 10 graphic, and I scanned it really, really high resolution, and I blew that up to be a 6 by 6 foot banner that was placed in a gallery. And it was like front in the window, and it stayed there for a month. And then I rolled it up, and it was in my closet for a long time. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Actually, I think I rolled it out and put it over my balcony for a day, and I thought I would be kicked out of my apartment. So I took it down. And there was that balance of expressing myself and being afraid to continue to do it. And I lived with that for a long time. And then I was walking across the park one day, and there was a Black Lives Matter movement event that was like 3 years later. And I thought, "What? Wow, this is happening." And I ran to my studio and I got the banner and I brought it out and I laid it on the ground and I was like, "Who wants this? Who can take this and go to parades with it?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we've got the sticks and everything. We're gonna wrap it around the sticks and we're gonna walk down and we're gonna use it in a parade." And I was like, "It's yours. And then I made a bunch of stickers out of it. And some of you may even have my Black Lives Matter stickers. And so those stickers now sit in my studio and people buy them all the time. I give them away. I have a friend who I send him like 50 of them every couple of months. And I don't know how he's distributing them, but he's always asking for them. And someone came to my studio one day and took all of my Black Lives Matter stickers and hid them. They took them and they put them somewhere else in my studio. But because I have a public facing studio and I'm not there all the time, and they hid them. They didn't want other people to see them. Then I had to live with that, right? And so I'm sharing that story because sometimes we've got to do the work. Sometimes we've got to give it out. Sometimes we give it away. Sometimes we charge a little bit. When I was selling the Black Lives Stickers Matters on Etsy, every sale that I had on Etsy, any of the profits would go to the BLM movement. And so this is just an example of how you can align with a movement. Yeah. So that's one thing. So we talked a little bit about movements. How can you create something and you can be a part of the movement, meaning um, you can reach out to the organization and say, hey, do you want this or can you use this? And that's great. And let's talk about that. So before I go on, does anybody have any questions, reactions, or ideas around how you could make art around a movement? It could be something national, international. It could be something as easy as the local Master Gardeners Club is trying to expand their membership, either to get support or more master gardeners, because you believe in the environment and you want to do something around either as far as environmental justice, or you just want to make the town, the place, your environment that you live in, a beautiful place for everyone. That's a movement. And I hope I didn't use the word just there because I'm not belittling that. That's, and here's just in a different way, as important, right? But are there any movements that you're interested in?
Well, Heather, I
So,
think that
yeah,
the Black Lives Matters movement has been something that I have cared a lot about, but also struggled with, as you said, balance of expressing myself and being afraid. But I had a intense reaction when you shared that the stickers were hidden in your studio,
yeah.
and I'm still dealing with that reaction.
Oh, I'm sorry and thank you.
No.
And can I just say that still dealing with that reaction
Hmm.
means that it's important.
Exactly. And that's
Mhm.
why I decided to share, not because I wanted you
Thank
to
you.
feel bad for sharing,
Yeah,
but because like it was moving to me
yeah,
and it's hard for me and it hurts that we are even in this place
yeah.
and that
Here's the
we
thing though. They just hid some stickers. I didn't get shot,
well,
right?
yeah,
I
that's
wasn't forcibly marginalized.
right.
I'm not incarcerated over it.
Right.
So I'm good. And it made me stronger, right? It made me realize, ooh, this is important.
Yeah, I think that's my point that like why are we still needing to educate people on this? But
Mhm.
clearly we are.
Yeah.
And um being a part of Portland Society of Calligraphy's Black Lives Matter, uh, get what did they? Oh, I forgot what it was called, but the online uh, product work that we
Yeah.
created to
Yeah.
support that. It makes me realize that like those are the kind of things I want to be a part of and be involved
Yes. Thank you. And there's strength in numbers. So thank you for being a part of that.
in.
I can answer your question, why do we still need to do it? And it's a hard question to like sit with. And that is because even I didn't know that the Portland Society, that the Portland calligraphers did that. And I'm a member. Like, how did I not know that? I don't live in
Right,
Portland, but I also get the emails. It's
right.
because we're not done yet.
Yes, yes. I totally I meant it more as a
Oh,
global.
no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're right. Yeah. Why do we? Why are we? I mean, that's a very frustrated question that doesn't need to be answered.
Right.
It's rhetorical, isn't it? Yeah, because we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. But you did something. So that was with purpose.
Mm.
Doing it with a group is a great way to do it. Doing it with organizations and nonprofits broadens your audience, right? So there's safety in numbers, there's power in numbers. And so by doing that with a group, whether you were invited to it or you start it, doesn't matter. Now you've grown an audience, right? So that's a really great purpose and it starts to build momentum. So that's just an example, right? So we talked about, and this is pretty pedestrian, but still important, signs, stickers. Let me put above that all of that art, because that can be turned into those things. Building an audience, sharing audiences with other organizations, or even having an event is a great opportunity to call your local newspaper, let them know it's happening. They can help spread the word. Sharing it with your congressperson helps them be aware of what you're doing, what your organization is doing about it. Sharing audience is a big piece of this. So what are some ideas that come up for you? What's coming up for you that you can do, that you could make, that you could share?
So I think the thing that came up for me is the piece that I created for Black Lives Matters, the exhibit. Um, just wondering, like, could I get it printed on stickers or, and my piece is a piece to everybody, but I also specifically shake my finger at, I guess you could say, the Christian community, and that we haven't done more, and that we're not willing to stand up for justice for all. And so I think, oh, well, maybe I could make stickers and share them with Christian organizations,
Mhm.
Christian churches, um, as a reminder that we're supposed to be the first ones.
That's brave. Something that came up for me, kind of, I like the way of giving it away. I know social media is important to some folks. If someone were to see you, if you could recreate it or show a portion of it in some way and video yourself doing it, and maybe even if you had some, you don't have to do it you don't have to talk while you're doing it, but if you like to talk, maybe if you were to write something, a script first, and say, why are we still talking about this? And then list all the reasons why. And then to say, this should be a rhetorical question, or this shouldn't even be asked. This question shouldn't even be a question that we have to ask, right? And if you don't feel comfortable writing something like that because you can't find the words, or if you don't feel comfortable it being in your voice, you could probably find in on Instagram, there's all kinds of audio around that kind of topic that can be an overlay, right? And then you can point people to where they can find the sticker. And maybe you do sell them because you have to be able to pay for them, and a portion of that can go towards a Christian organization that is stepping up. There's like, we just mashed up your art, an idea, a product, an organization, right? You can also, of course, I'll follow up with an email with this as well, but you can also share this with other artists. You can take this to your creative group. You can take this image to your guild or other artists that you know and say, look, this is true for me. I feel this way. What can we do? How can we share with purpose? How can what we do make an impact in the world? But is there anything else anyone wants to share? Take pictures on the theme and show them, and then the benefits go to the cause. Yeah. Yeah. And some of these things can just be shared, and some of them can be money.
I just wonder,
Oops.
how do you access, I my brain is firing with all these different organizations.
Oh, I'm
But
glad to
at
hear that.
but at the same time, um, is there a place to go? Do you go to a government page? Do you just go to social media to see, for somebody that doesn't have ideas,
Yeah.
to find where the needs are in your community? Is that all about going to a community page and accessing? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because
Yeah.
there's so
I can
much.
appreciate that question because for a long time I made art and I didn't know who my audience was. I made art and I didn't
Mhm,
know who it was for, right? And so this is kind of saying, okay, I want to do something. I have this skill. Who
mhm.
needs it? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Kind
Like
of,
who
yeah.
could use that? And I think that there's a couple of different ways you could do this. You could go to groups that you feel are in alignment with you, churches, creative groups, see first if they have any ideas. Because if you start doing all this work alone, because I'm also going to give you some steps on how to do it yourself, but if you do it all alone, a lot of times people who do this type of work get burned out. So it's like,
Right.
get people involved, right? First, see who else in my sphere could help me. Think of ways. And if you help them come up with things, they might have ideas and they might, because we never know who other people know, they might have some ideas that they feel so passionate about and they're so excited about your idea that they're like, yes, let's do this. Yes. How do we do this? There was for instance, you can also just for yourself, can just watch the news. I mean, I try not to. I try to filter myself, but we all know, especially in the calligraphy community, that North Carolina got hit by the hurricane, right? And so many creative groups throughout the country were having fundraisers. I was a part of it. I didn't start it. I just spread the news. But there was another woman in my studio, in my public facing studio. There's 22 of us, and another person in that studio said, hey, I have all these 4-inch canvases. We're going to paint hearts on them. You can do it however you want. And then we're going to sell them any kind of donation. Here's the QR code that goes directly to the organization. So there's no money passing anywhere. Here's the QR code that goes directly to the organization. Send us an email showing that you gave, or if you come to the in person event, click this QR code. Now go pick one off the wall. It was so easy. It was like there was nobody had to count the money, nobody had to it was like, just do it. And everybody that made a heart was totally volunteer. They brought their own supplies. We had a heart making party and everybody brought their supplies and shared the supplies and it was this great event. And it was only like 3 or 4 hours. We made 100 hearts, put them on the wall, sold them all. That's just
Wow.
one example, right? And so finding other people who might be excited about something that's already going on. You can also make a list, right? So just start to make a list. What are the movements that are going on? Who are the organizations in your community that are doing great things? Where do you find those? Um, I live in a small town of about 15,000 people. There is there are bulletin boards all over town that people make flyers to put up about classes and organizations that they're a part of. There is one bulletin board, and it's in the building that I have my studio in that I kid you not, it's at least 12 feet wide by 8 feet tall. It's metal, and everything's stuck on there with magnets. And I go up to it every single week and I take down all the ones that have already expired and I go through them and I read them and I'm like, I didn't know that was going on in my town. I mean, it's like reverse FOMO really because I don't want to look at them and be like, "Oh my gosh, there's all this stuff I can't do." Because I kind of do that when I'm looking through them. But I take it down. That just satisfies the OCD person in me that I just want this organization. I take them all down and then I go over them and I'm like, "Oh wow, look at these great organizations in my community." So you can find those on bulletin boards. You can see which ones are reaching out and want support. You can go to your local United Way. You can go to the local Chamber of Commerce and find out who are the nonprofits in town that are helping other people. They oftentimes have a nonprofit listing. You could find out if you live in a place where there's a visitor center, find out, do they have a listing of the organizations in town? Any place where you can find organizations. Don't know if you still have a telephone in your community. We have a telephone book, a phone book. Those
I
still
don't know.
exist, right? You can Google it. Like, you could start to make that list. And even if you make that list on your own, my suggestion to you is, like, take 20 minutes. Don't spend any more time than that. If you spend any more time than that, it's too
Mhm,
much. Maybe just
mhm,
take 20 minutes, say, how many can I get to? Ask yourself, what am I into? Do I love animals? Animal nonprofits in your town, right?
mhm,
Oh, there's a I know there's a stable outside of town that does horse therapy. Maybe I want to help them, right? Whatever the thing is, whatever you're into, make that list. And then at any point in time, bring in the people, either for the ideas or um, to help be a part of that movement. Maybe you get them into your studio and you say, we're going to make this thing and we're going to do it and then we're going to donate it and it's going to help something, right? While you're doing all of that, especially the creation, take pictures, get those behind the scenes, get those process pictures, get those finished pictures. One of the, I think, the most impactful things that Heather, this other girl in my studio, did when we did the Heart for the Arts for North Carolina was after we were done, she was like, pick one of your hearts, get your picture taken. So we all stood there with our heart. And then she plugged it into a Canva template that you can learn how to do from Klara, if you don't already know. She put it in a Canva template and she just put all of our pictures in the same template. And then she sent them to all of us and said, pick whichever ones you want to send out. And I was like, well, I'm going to pick mine. I'm going to put it in my email and then I'm going to put it on social media. And it was like, she just did a little bit of work for
mhm.
all of us. And all of that went out like so quickly in a week. All of everything I just told you about the Hearts for the Arts happened in less than 2 weeks' time. Now I have to go back and find out how much did we make. I'm sure if we sold 100 of them and everybody gave 10, $1,000 isn't a bad chunk of change for no one. None of us getting paid, but none of us also putting in a ton of worker money. That's all it took. So that's like
Mhm.
the power of people coming together in such a short time. But being able, even if you can or someone in your organization, put this on the checklist, right? Create a checklist. What are the things we need to do? We need to find the people. We need to find the organization. What's the social media part? Taking pictures of the process, taking pictures of the people, having a very simple template that one person, or I would say just one person, can put all of those pictures in and email that out to everybody. Someone in your group is tech savvy enough to do that, and it probably took just a few hours worth of work.
Well, this is great. It's like a springboard.
Good. I'm glad. Because when I was asked that question, how do I do this
Yeah.
when so much
Mhm,
is going on in the world? Well, guess what? We already determined, yes, we're doing it anyway, right? And
mhm.
we're going to keep doing it. How can we pair with those places that we can do this with purpose? Okay. So I'm just going to honor our time and everything because I know some folks need to go. Uh, so really quickly, I will create a blank version of this and send this out so you can all have it and you can write in it yourself. And I just want to ask if any of you have a key takeaway in terms of how you felt in the beginning, how you feel now about it, or what you're going to do next. If there's one thing that you're going to take away or do next, and it can be a really small step, like I'm going to write a bunch of ideas down in my sketchbook, or I know who I'm going to call next. Please put that in the chat or unmute.
It's just gonna take a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's all about your values and what matters. So for me, the takeaway is I know what matters and I know, where I'm gonna head next. It gives me a purpose to be able to think about community.
Yes.
And I'm very involved with the CBCA, which is
Hmm.
Council for the Arts, Business for
Right.
the Arts, and they're reaching out for help as well. So,
You
and
might already find a group of folks that are organized that you're like, I can just plug myself in there. I don't have to be the community organizer. I can plug myself into seeing what they're doing. That's an excellent organization. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? One thing you're going to do after this call might be that you're just going to brew some tea and look out the window and think about it. But what's the next step?
Making contact.
There you go.
I think I'm going to
Lisa.
take a walk and I'm going to, well, I started that list while you were talking about how to
Of
find
course you
that
did.
group. So
Of
I need to
course.
explore how to find that group.
Thank you. And so I want to thank all of you for being here. Please stay in contact, and I'm excited to see what we're doing next. Thank you so much, Veronique. I'm going to write positive messages and make art. Good. I love spreading that love. I think that's so, so important for all of us at this time. Now, one of the most important steps to this important work we can all do is to take accountability. Oh, I know some of you don't like that word. It's hard. I get it. That's okay. Remember, you can hold two things at once, right? So sometimes accountability means taking out the trash or putting away the dishes. It may also mean getting something that you promised done. That's it. It may also mean representing in a way that others expect you. Whew, now that's heavy. I get it. Accountability is really hard. However, I bring this up because I want to offer two opportunities to strengthen your resilience and stay accountable in the coming year. They are easy, they are fun, and they are very effective. And yes, it's still hard work, but I'm here to hold your hand. So the first thing is that I'll be offering a few resilience building sessions later this year and all throughout 2025. And starting in February, I'll be offering co-working sessions for us to be productive together. I'll share more about that and about the structure later, but please take a look at your calendar and consider carving out just a few hours every Tuesday to work on projects. I'll be sharing more about that structure. I just wanted to plant a seed so that you know that I'm here to support you. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a beautiful session. I appreciate your time and energy around this topic, and I wish you the very best in sharing your work with purpose.